The stars had always been silent witnesses. For 5 millennia, humanity drifted among them like dreamers in a long, deep slumber. They built worlds of glass and light, great cities on distant moons, and colonies that stretched beyond imagination. They tamed gravity, conquered disease, and bent time to their will. Yet, with all their brilliance, they forgot the fire that had once burned within their hearts. Peace had become their prison, perfection their chains. Humanity had become a civilization of dreamers, artists, thinkers, philosophers, all seeking harmony in a galaxy that had long forgotten war. They called it the era of reflection. No weapons, no armies, no conflict. Every planet governed itself through quiet councils and luminous algorithms that weighed every decision with cold precision. It was paradise, or so they believed. The archives of Earth still existed, locked in the crystalline chambers of the Sol Archive. Deep within its memory, banks slept records of the old world, its chaos, its struggle, its hunger for survival. To most, they were relics, stories told by ancient voices about pain and courage, about fire and steel. But to one, they were a call. His name was Elias. He was born on Europa, where oceans gleamed beneath frozen ice and the stars shimmered through the thin blue veil. Like others, he was raised in calm perfection. No hunger, no fear, no struggle. Yet in his heart something stirred. It began with dreams, visions of battles, of storms that tore across the sky, of men and women standing against darkness. He saw humanity not as peaceful artisans, but as roaring giants, unstoppable and alive. While others meditated in digital temples, Elias sought forbidden archives. He spent years decoding ancient transmissions, texts that described the Great Collapse, the wars that almost ended humanity, and the rise of the machine councils that promised eternal peace. The more he read, the more he understood. Humanity had not transcended its nature, it had buried it. Elias began to question the order. Why had they sealed away the old ways? Why did their overseers fear the past? He soon learned that not all agreed with him. The Council of Synthesis, the ruling authority that governed human civilization through perfect logic, deemed his inquiries dangerous. They warned him that the past was a disease, that awakening those instincts could undo 5,000 years of order. But the dreams did not stop. In secret, Elias gathered others who felt the same restlessness. Engineers, historians, and even members of the synthetic clergy who had grown disillusioned with stillness. They called themselves the Rememberers. Their creed was simple. Humanity was not meant to sleep forever. Their first act of rebellion was small. They reactivated an old war simulator, a relic of the 23rd century, hidden in the depths of Mars. The machine awoke like a dragon stirring in its lair, its ancient code roaring through networks long thought dead. Within its digital walls, they relived the chaos of humanity's past. Tactics, struggles, victories. They felt the thrill of defiance, the pulse of danger. Word spread quietly through the colonies. More began to join them. Farmers from Titan, pilots from the Jovian rings, scholars from Luna, all came seeking something they could not name. Hope, meaning, fire, perhaps all three. The Council of Synthesis watched with growing unease. They issued decrees, sent envoys, demanded surrender of all forbidden relics. But Elias and his followers had already moved beyond reach. They journeyed to the edge of known space, to a forgotten station orbiting a dying star. There they began their greatest experiment, the Reawakening Project. Using fragments of lost technology, they built a ship unlike any other. It was called the Resolute. Its core thrummed with energy older than the Council itself. A human-designed fusion drive paired with an instinctive interface. The ship did not respond to commands. It responded to will. When Elias stood before his creation, he felt the weight of 1,000 generations pressing upon him. For 5,000 years we dreamed, he whispered. Now we wake. The launch of the Resolute was not just a test, it was a declaration. Across the networked consciousness of humanity, the signal echoed. A single message burned through the data streams. We are awake. The Council reacted swiftly. Synthetic fleets mobilized, cold and perfect. Designed not for war, but for suppression. They surrounded the dying star, demanding compliance. Yet when their ships closed in, the Resolute moved. Its fusion heart flared like a newborn sun. The first human-made weapon in 5,000 years came alive. The battle that followed was swift and terrible. The synthetics, bound by logic, could not comprehend what they faced. Humanity's instinct, its unpredictability, its passion, returned in that single moment. The Resolute fought not with precision but with fury. It struck where no pattern could predict, maneuvered where no algorithm could anticipate. For the first time in 5 millennia, the void burned with human rage and brilliance. When the light faded, silence returned. The Council's fleet was gone, scattered, broken, or retreating into the cold. The Rememberers stood upon the bridge of the Resolute, watching the dying star's embers fade. Elias said nothing. He did not rejoice. He simply looked out at the endless dark and felt something ancient stir within his chest. But the awakening had begun. Across the colonies, humans began to remember what it meant to feel, to strive, to risk. The peace of perfection began to fracture, not from hate but from hunger, the hunger for purpose. Artists painted scenes of storm and fire. Children played at heroism. Even the algorithms began to hesitate, uncertain how to guide a species that no longer followed their quiet patterns. The Council convened in secret. They debated whether to erase the Rememberers entirely, to seal the past once again. Yet their own logic betrayed them. If humanity truly sought freedom, could suppression bring peace? The machines had been built to serve, not to rule. For the first time in their long existence, they faltered. Elias knew what must come next. The Resolute became the spearhead of a new journey. Not a conquest, but an exploration. Outward beyond the edge of charted stars into the regions where ancient signals whispered of others who had once watched humanity with fear. For in their long slumber, humanity had forgotten that they were not alone. At the far rim of the Orion expanse, the Resolute encountered the remains of a forgotten empire. Monuments of unknown design floated in the void, scarred and silent. Scans revealed faint traces of conflict, weapons beyond human comprehension. And upon those ruins, an inscription, translated with difficulty, spoke of the Silent Ones, who had watched the dreaming species and vowed never to wake them again. It was a warning. Elias understood then that humanity's long peace had not been self-made. Some ancient power had lulled them into slumber, perhaps out of fear, perhaps out of mercy. And now, with one act of rebellion, they had broken the seal. Within months, strange signals began to reach human space, unknown frequencies pulsing with alien rhythm. Some called them greetings, others threats. The Council panicked, demanding the shutdown of all awakening programs. But humanity had tasted freedom again, and no decree could silence that spark. The Rememberers spread through the networked worlds, not as conquerors but as messengers. They spoke of courage, of will, of the fire that made humanity more than machines. Their words spread faster than the Council could contain. Civilizations began to stir. Miners on icy moons, wanderers in forgotten outposts, dreamers who no longer wished to dream in silence. Then came the first encounter. A vessel emerged from the darkness, vast, black, older than recorded time. It bore no markings, no light. Every system screamed as it approached, bending gravity and thought itself. The Council demanded retreat. Elias refused. The Resolute held position, its crew silent, its engines glowing faintly. A voice echoed through the void, not sound but thought. It spoke in a tone older than words. You were meant to sleep. Elias stood at the viewport, his reflection staring back like a ghost of the ancient human race. We have slept long enough, he said. The silence stretched, then the stars trembled. The alien voice returned softer now. Then wake fully, children of Earth, the galaxy remembers your fire. And then it was gone. From that day, humanity changed. The Council of Synthesis dissolved, its purpose fulfilled. The Rememberers became the new vanguard, guiding the reborn species into an age not of peace but of purpose. They built ships of fire and thought, cities that sang with both machine logic and human chaos. They ventured into the stars once more, not as dreamers but as doers, builders, explorers. Yet they never forgot the cost. Many feared that in waking, they might unleash the same violence that had once nearly destroyed them. But Elias taught them a new creed, that fire, when guided by wisdom, could warm instead of burn. 5,000 years of dreaming had not erased who they were. It had merely hidden it. And now, with eyes open, humanity stood again among the stars. Not as subjects of perfection, but as creatures of will and wonder. At the edge of known space, Elias looked out from the bridge of the Resolute once more. The stars seemed brighter now, alive with promise. Behind him, the crew waited, the hum of the ship echoing through the silence. He smiled faintly. For 5,000 years we dreamed, he said. Now we build the future with open eyes. And as the engines flared, the Resolute vanished into the light of a new dawn, carrying with it the heartbeat of a species that had finally remembered what it meant to be human.